Okay, so you know how we're all kind of obsessed with living longer these days?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into how to not just add years to our lives,
Right.
but like really make those years count. You know what I mean?
Totally. I think that's what everyone's really after, right?
Yeah,
Not just existing longer, but thriving.
exactly. So we're going to break down some seriously practical insights from this book, Outlive.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Peter Attia's book. It's called, like, The Science and Art of Longevity or something.
Yeah, Outlive the Science and Art of Longevity.
Right. That's the one. So we're talking nutrition, exercise, sleep.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Plus emotional well-being, even proactive healthcare.
Yeah, because it's not just about dodging death. It's about dodging decline too, right?
100%. Like
Yeah.
maximizing those healthy, vibrant years we get.
So what we really want to do today is give you guys listening some actionable stuff.
Yeah, concrete steps you can actually start taking today.
Based on Attia's research and his framework for longevity.
Yeah, he lays out this really solid foundation.
He calls them
The 4 pillars of longevity.
the 4 pillars of longevity. Okay, I like it. It sounds kind of like foundational.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these pillars are basically like the essential building blocks
Oh.
for living a long and healthy life. The first one, and probably the most powerful in his view, is exercise.
Okay, so exercise is like number one, huh?
He considers it the single most potent tool we have for longevity.
Interesting. So it's not just about looking good or feeling fit.
Right, it's about something deeper.
Yeah, it's got to be connected to like how we age at a cellular level or something.
Exactly.
Hmm?
And then after exercise, you've got nutrition, which is all about personalizing your eating habits
Okay.
to optimize your metabolic health.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's sleep,
Ah, sleep, of course.
at best.
Which he calls the ultimate recovery and repair
I
system.
mean, he's not wrong.
And finally, we have emotional and mental health,
Right, right.
which is often overlooked, but it's so crucial for overall well-being.
So it's like a holistic view then.
It totally is.
All
It's
right.
not just about focusing on one thing. Yeah, it's about addressing all these different aspects of our lives.
Exactly. And I think for anyone listening, it might be helpful to kind of do a quick self-assessment here.
Okay.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself in each of these 4 areas?
That's good.
Just a quick snapshot of where you might want to focus your energy, you know.
That's a great starting point.
Mm.
Okay, so let's dive into that first pillar then, exercise.
Let's do it.
Why does Attia think it's so important for longevity? Like, what's the science behind it?
Well, he goes into the research pretty deeply.
Okay.
And basically it comes down to the fact that exercise has these profound effects
Okay.
on our cells, our hormones, our cardiovascular system, all these things that play a huge role in aging.
So it's like a domino effect?
Kinda, yeah.
Hmm.
Like when you exercise regularly, you're strengthening all these different systems in your body.
Right.
And that helps protect you from age-related decline.
Interesting. Okay, so what kinds of exercise does he specifically recommend?
But he breaks it down into a few key categories.
Oh.
And each one serves a different purpose. So first, there's Zone 2 training.
Zone 2 training. Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard of that. What is that exactly?
So imagine like a level of exertion where you can still hold a conversation,
Okay.
but you're definitely working,
All right.
like brisk walking, a steady bike ride, easy swimming, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
This type of cardio is awesome for your heart,
Okay.
and it actually helps improve your mitochondrial density and efficiency.
Mitochondria. Those are the powerhouses of our cells, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're responsible for producing energy.
Right.
And as we age, our mitochondria tend to decline.
I see.
But Zone 2 training helps keep them functioning optimally.
So it's not about killing yourself in every workout. It's
mm.
more about that consistent effort.
Exactly. Consistency is key here.
Mhm.
And then you've got VO2 max workouts.
VO2 max. Now that sounds intense.
It's definitely a step up in intensity.
Yeah.
VO2 max is basically a measure of how much oxygen your body can use.
Oh.
During intense exercise, and improving your VO2 max is linked to a lower risk of all sorts of chronic diseases.
It's like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also been shown to increase lifespan.
Wow. So these are the workouts that really get your heart pumping.
Well, I think high-intensity interval training, sprints, hill climbs, that sort of thing.
Got it. Okay, and what's the third category?
Strength training,
Ah, strength training. So important.
especially as we get older.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, strength training helps prevent sarcopenia,
Sarcopenia, which is...
age-related muscle loss.
Oh, right.
And that's
Yeah.
super important for maintaining strength, balance, independence.
Yeah, as you get older, you don't want to lose that.
Exactly.
Plus,
Plus, strength training helps build bone density, which is key for preventing osteoporosis.
right.
And it even plays a role in regulating your metabolism,
So it's like a triple whammy of benefits.
pretty much.
Okay, so for someone listening who wants to take action on this exercise front,
Yeah.
what would you recommend they do this week?
How about aiming for 3 sessions of Zone 2 cardio,
Okay.
around 30 minutes each?
Okay.
Could be a brisk walk, a bike ride, whatever you enjoy.
Okay, cool. That's doable.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the second pillar then, nutrition.
Okay, so with nutrition, the big picture goal is to optimize your metabolic health.
Okay, metabolic health. Now, that's a bit of a buzzword these days. What does it actually mean?
Well, essentially, it's about how efficiently your body processes energy from food.
Okay.
Things like blood sugar, control insulin sensitivity, cholesterol levels.
Right, right.
And keeping these systems running smoothly is really key for longevity.
So it's not just about calories in, calories out.
All right, it's about the quality of the calories you're consuming
Okay.
and how your body handles them.
So what are some of the key principles Attia highlights?
Well, one of the biggest ones is prioritizing protein intake.
Protein. Okay. We were just talking about muscle loss with strength training.
Exactly. And protein is the building block of muscle. So making sure you're getting enough is essential for maintaining muscle mass as you age.
Okay. Makes sense. Anything else?
He also talks a lot about minimizing processed foods.
Processed foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are generally not considered health foods.
Yeah, they're often loaded with refined sugars, unhealthy fats, and all sorts of artificial ingredients.
Right, right.
Which can lead to inflammation and wreak havoc on your metabolic health.
So it's all about cutting back on the junk.
Pretty much. And then another thing he mentions is time-restricted eating.
Okay, time-restricted eating. That's another one I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly popular.
So what's the deal with that?
Basically, it involves having consistent eating windows
Okay.
and allowing your body longer periods without food.
So like intermittent fasting.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
There are different approaches,
Right.
but the general idea is to give your body a break from digestion,
Okay.
which can have some benefits for things like insulin sensitivity and cellular repair.
Interesting. So it's not just what you eat, but when you eat. Okay, so for our listeners who want to make a change to their nutrition today,
Yeah.
what's a good first step?
How about at your next meal, try swapping out one processed food item
Okay.
for a whole food alternative.
So instead of like chips,
Yeah.
have some fruit.
Exactly. Or a handful of nuts.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Easy enough.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about sleep then, the third pillar.
Sleep.
It always feels like there's not enough time for it.
All right.
But Attia calls it the body's ultimate repair mechanism.
Yeah, he really emphasizes how important sleep is.
So why is it so vital for longevity?
Well, for one thing, it's crucial for memory consolidation.
Oh,
Like all that learning and experience that you do during the day,
yeah.
your brain processes and stores it while you sleep.
Oh, wow.
So if you're not getting enough sleep, your memory can really suffer.
Makes sense. What else?
Sleep is also super important for your immune system.
Okay.
When you sleep, your body releases proteins called cytokines.
Cytokines.
Yeah, they help fight off infection and inflammation.
So if I'm not sleeping enough, I'm more susceptible to getting sick.
Exactly. And sleep also plays a huge role in emotional regulation.
Okay. How so?
When you're sleep deprived, your
Yeah.
emotions can be all over the place.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely noticed that.
You're more irritable. You have less patience. It's harder to cope with stress.
Right, right.
And that chronic stress can really take a toll on your health over time.
Wow. So sleep really is crucial for both our physical and mental health.
Absolutely. It affects every aspect of our well-being.
Okay, so what are some of Attia's top sleep tips?
Well, one of the biggest things he emphasizes is consistency.
Okay.
Try to aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night,
Every night, even weekends.
even weekends. It's important to maintain a regular sleep-wake cycle
Okay.
to keep your body's natural circadian rhythm in sync.
Circadian rhythm, right? That's like our internal clock.
Exactly. And then he also talks about the importance of your sleep environment.
Okay.
Like your bedroom should be cool, dark, and quiet.
Makes sense.
Blackout curtains are your friend. And you should avoid electronic devices for at least an hour before bed.
The blue light thing.
Yeah, blue light from screens can interfere with melatonin production.
And melatonin is the hormone that helps us sleep.
Exactly. So put those phones away.
Okay. I'll try. I am definitely guilty of scrolling before bed.
I think we all are.
So what's one sleep strategy our listeners could try tonight?
How about dimming the lights in your home an hour before bed
Okay.
and avoiding screens during that time?
Just to kind of signal to your body that it's time to wind down.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, let's move on to that fourth pillar then. Emotional and mental health?
Yeah, this one's often overlooked.
But it sounds like it's super important.
It really is. Chronic stress, anxiety, unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
All that stuff can actually accelerate the aging process.
Really, at a cellular level.
Yep. It's not just about feeling good emotionally.
Wow.
It directly impacts our physical health.
Okay, so what does Attia recommend for improving our emotional well-being?
Well, he's a big proponent of mindfulness and meditation. Those practices have been shown to reduce stress and improve emotional regulation.
Right.
He also talks about the importance of social connections.
Yeah, I've heard that loneliness can be really bad for your health.
It definitely can. Studies have shown that social isolation is linked to a shorter lifespan.
So it's not just about being a social butterfly.
Right? It's about having those meaningful connections with people.
Okay.
And then he also suggests that therapy or coaching can be really helpful for some people.
Yeah, sometimes you need a little extra support.
Exactly. They can provide tools and strategies for managing stress and processing emotions.
Okay, so it's like a multi-pronged approach then.
It is. It's about addressing your emotional well-being from different angles.
So what's one simple action our listeners could take today?
How about reaching out to someone you care about and
Okay.
having a meaningful conversation?
Like a friend or family member.
Yeah, even a short phone call or text exchange can make a difference.
It's a good reminder to stay connected with people. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit now and talk about healthcare.
Okay.
Attia emphasizes a proactive approach here.
Yeah, he's all about taking control of your health.
So what's the main idea behind that?
Well, the key insight is that early detection is crucial
For what?
for preventing or managing chronic diseases.
Okay.
So instead of waiting for symptoms to appear,
Right.
you actively monitor your health and identify potential risks early on.
So you're not just reacting when things go wrong.
Exactly. You're staying ahead of the game.
Okay, so what specific things does Attia recommend?
Well, he's a big advocate for regular blood tests
Blood tests.
to track things like glucose levels,
Right.
cholesterol markers of inflammation.
So you can see how your metabolic health is doing.
Exactly. And then he also talks about the importance of personalized cancer screenings.
Based on your individual risk factors.
Right. And he's also a proponent of early monitoring for cognitive decline.
So like Alzheimer's and dementia?
Yeah.
Wow, this is all pretty high-tech stuff.
It is, but it's becoming increasingly accessible.
Good to know. So what's one proactive step our listeners could take this month?
How about scheduling a preventive health checkup?
Okay.
Could be your annual physical, a specific screening test,
Okay.
or even just a conversation with your doctor about your health history.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, Attia also mentions this concept of medicine 3.0 in the book.
Yeah, medicine 3.0.
What is that exactly?
So it's basically a new paradigm in healthcare.
Okay.
It's a shift away from what he calls medicine 2.0,
Which is?
which is the traditional model of waiting for symptoms and then treating the illness.
Right, the reactive approach.
Exactly. Medicine 3.0 is all about being proactive.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying biology of aging and disease
Okay.
and intervening before major problems arise.
So it's like preventative medicine.
Exactly. It's about optimizing your health for the long term.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like in practice?
Sure, let's take heart disease as an example.
Okay.
In the traditional medicine 2.0 model.
Yeah.
You might wait until someone has chest pain or a heart attack,
Right.
and then you treat those symptoms.
Okay.
But in medicine 3.0, you would focus on improving cardiovascular health decades in advance.
So like starting in your 20s or 30s?
Yeah, through things like diet and exercise,
Okay.
aggressively managing risk factors like high blood pressure and cholesterol,
Gotcha.
and using advanced testing to identify potential vulnerabilities early on.
Wow, that's a completely different approach.
It is. It's about playing the long game with your health.
So how can our listeners start adopting this medicine 3.0 mindset?
I think the key is to recognize that the small choices you make every day
Okay.
really add up over time.
Right.
Your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, your stress management,
Yeah.
all those things have a cumulative impact on your health.
So it's about taking responsibility for your own well-being.
Exactly. It's empowering to realize that you have agency in shaping your future health.
Okay, and finally, Attia talks about the longevity mindset.
Yeah, this is a big one.
So what does that mean?
Well, it's about understanding that longevity isn't a quick fix.
Okay.
It's not about fad diets or extreme measures.
Right.
It's about making sustainable changes
Okay.
and sticking with them for the long haul.
So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It requires patience and consistency.
So what's the key principle here?
It's about focusing on those long-term outcomes
Okay.
and trusting that the small positive habits you build today
Yeah.
will pay off big time down the road.
So what's one small habit our listeners could start today?
How about committing to a short daily walk?
Okay.
Even just 15 or 20 minutes.
Easy enough.
Or maybe incorporating one extra serving of vegetables into your diet each day.
Okay, both doable.
Yeah, those are great starting points.
Awesome. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Outlive,
Right.
what's the main takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is that longevity is about those small, consistent actions.
Right.
Across all 4 pillars.
Exercise, nutrition, sleep, emotional well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about being proactive with your healthcare.
Okay, so it was a holistic approach.
It is. It's about taking a long-term view of your health.
I love that. And Attia says it perfectly. Don't just aim to live longer. Aim to live better.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So for everyone listening right now, think about one specific action you can take today.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting more sleep, going for a walk, eating more veggies,
Right.
reaching out to a loved one, scheduling a doctor's appointment.
Anything that moves you in the right direction.
Exactly. Pick one thing and make it happen.
Start beating those healthy habits today.
Because it's those small steps
Yeah.
that can lead to a longer, healthier, and ultimately better life.
Absolutely.
That's it for this deep dive into Outlive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.